Today, we're diving into a really important document called the Sydney Declaration. It's all about redefining a field we think we know from TV and movies, but, the reality is so much more complicated.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty bold question. We all see forensic science as this absolute pillar of the justice system, right? But what if I told you that for a long time now, the field has been quietly wrestling with a major identity crisis?
And believe me, this isn't some new controversy. For decades, literally decades, leading experts have been using phrases like intractable state of crisis. They've been arguing not just about the latest techniques, but about the very soul of their work, its scientific and philosophical foundations.
This quote from Paul Kirk, and get this, it's from all the way back in 1963, it just hits the nail on the head. We've developed all this incredible technology, these amazing new gadgets, but the core thinking, the why behind what they're doing, it hasn't really kept up. All the progress has been about the tools, not about the fundamental principles.
So, what do you do when the foundation is shaky? Well, you've got to rebuild it. And that is exactly what a global group of forensic scientists decided to do with the Sydney Declaration.
To get this done, 16 of the world's leading forensic scientists got together. They gave themselves a huge task to answer one simple-sounding question. What even is forensic science at its core? And what's so cool about this is what they were aiming for. They weren't just writing another lab manual or a new checklist. No, their goal was way bigger. They wanted to create a universal framework, a kind of shared philosophy that could unite the entire field, whether you're in the US, Europe, or Australia.
Okay, so where do you start with a project that big? Well, they started by redefining the single most important concept in all of forensic science, the trace.
We all have that CSI image burned into our brains, don't we? A tiny fiber, a single hair, a perfect fingerprint. But the Declaration says, hang on, we need to think way bigger. A trace isn't just something microscopic. It is any leftover from something that happened. A digital file, a chair that's out of place. It could even be something huge, like a megalith. It's the effect left behind by a cause. And that new way of thinking leads to this new formal definition. Check out the keywords here, research-oriented. That means every single case is a brand new research project, not just a routine procedure. And see how it centers on remnants of past activities? That puts the concept of the trace right at the heart of everything. So once you have that new definition, you need some pillars to hold it up. And that's where the Declaration's 7 foundational principles come in. This is basically the roadmap for what a modern forensic science should look like. Let's look at Principle 1. I'm sure you've heard the old saying, every contact leaves a trace. Well, this principle takes that idea and gives it a major upgrade. It's not just about simple contact. It's about the activity. The way something was done leaves a specific kind of trace. So the trace isn't just proof that someone was there. It's a carrier, a vector of information about what actually happened. Now let's jump to Principle 4, because this one introduces a really fascinating idea called time asymmetry. I know, it sounds super academic, but the concept is actually pretty simple, and it's a huge challenge. Here's the key. Forensic scientists are a lot more like archaeologists than we realize. They show up after the event is over. They can't hit rewind and watch what happened. All they have are the effects, the traces. And from there, they have to work backward in time to try and figure out what might have caused them. You can't access the past directly, and that fact changes absolutely everything. And that flows right into Principle 5. Because you can't go back in time. Uncertainty isn't some kind of mistake or failure. It's just a built-in, unavoidable part of the whole process. The job isn't to eliminate it, because you can't. It's to understand it and manage it. And you can see how that uncertainty just builds up at every stage. I mean, think about it. It starts the moment a trace is even created. Then, will it last long enough to be found? Can it be recovered properly? Then there's the lab analysis, the interpretation of the results, and finally, how it all gets communicated. Uncertainty is woven through the entire timeline. And the other principles really flush all this out. They make it clear that a crime scene investigation is a scientific process, not just bagging and tagging. That clear, logical thinking is way more important than any one machine or test. That forensics can help prevent crime, not just solve it after the fact. And maybe most importantly, that a piece of evidence, a trace, means absolutely nothing by itself. It only gets its meaning from the context of the case. So you might be thinking,
Okay, this is all interesting philosophy, but why does it actually matter? Well, it matters because it's all about changing the very identity of the people doing this work, from just a technician to a true scientist.
The whole point here is to create a massive paradigm shift. It's about getting the culture to focus on the big picture purpose, not just the step-by-step process. It's a call to educate forensic professionals to think like scientists, to be critical thinkers, not just people trained to operate a machine. It's all in the service of making the field more reliable, more transparent, and, more unified.
And here it is, the bottom line. This all matters because the information that goes from a lab to a courtroom can change lives forever. By building a stronger scientific foundation, the hope is to make absolutely sure that the evidence presented to police, to judges, and to juries is as solid, as sound, and as transparent as it can possibly be.
Now, the authors themselves are really clear about this. This document isn't the finish line. It's not some set of rules carved in stone. It's really meant to be the start of the huge global conversation, a roadmap for how the entire field can grow and get stronger for whatever challenges come next.
Which kind of leaves us with this final question to chew on. We often look to science and court to give us the final capital T truth. But if science itself is a journey, one of constant learning and managing uncertainty, what does that really mean for our search for justice? It's a really powerful thought to end on.